ant/anti is a Latin prefix meaning against. An anticlimax is the opposite of a climax. An antiseptic or antibiotic fights germs. An antacid attacks acid in the stomach. And an antidote works against the effects of a poison. Antagonist, a person who opposes or is unfriendly toward another, an opponent. With supplies ordered from the Acme Company, Roadrunner's constant antagonist, while E. Coyote attempts one dastardly deed after another. On the stage or screen, in a story or a novel, the protagonist is the main character and the antagonist is the opposing one. Pro and ant usually mark the good and bad characters, but not always. There may occasionally be an evil protagonist and a good antagonist. In the drama of the real world, it's especially hard to sort out which is which, so we usually speak of both parties to a conflict as antagonists. During a strike, for example, representatives of labor and management become antagonists. They often manage to antagonize each other, and the antagonism often remains after the strike is over. Antigen, a chemical substance, such as a protein, that, when introduced into the body, causes the body to form antibodies against it. When the immune system is weak, it may not be able to produce enough antibodies to combat the invading antigens. An antibody is a protein produced by your immune system to fight outside invaders. Since the enemy substance actually triggers the production of antibodies, such substances are called antigens, anti being short for antibody, and gen meaning producer. In a similar way, an allergen produces an allergy, and a pathogen produces a pathology or disease. Antigens are often rod-like structures that stick out from the surface of an invading organism, usually a bacterium or a virus, and allow it to attach itself to cells in the invaded body. But unfortunately for them, in doing so they let the immune system know they're present, and the body is flooded with an army of Pac-Man-like antibodies. Antipathy, a strong dislike. It seemed odd that he could feel such intense antipathy for someone he'd only met once, and we suspected there was more to the story. When the nation of Yugoslavia was created in 1945, it combined a number of ethnic groups with a history of violent antipathy toward each other. In 1991 to 92, 4 regions of the country announced that they would become independent nations. A bloody 6-year war followed, fueled by these ancient and powerful antipathies. The American Civil War similarly resulted from antipathy between the North and the South. But in the U.S.'s relations with its next-door neighbors, it's been a long time since emotions have gotten much stronger than annoyance. Antithesis. 1. The contrast or opposition of ideas. 2. The exact opposite. Life on the small college campus, with its personal freedom and responsibility, was the antithesis of what many students had known in high school. Writers and speechmakers use the traditional pattern known as antithesis for its resounding effect. John Kennedy's famous "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country" is an example. But antithesis normally means simply opposite. Thus, war is the antithesis of peace, wealth is the antithesis of poverty, and love is the antithesis of hate. Holding two antithetical ideas in one's head at the same time, for example, that you're the sole master of your fate but also the helpless victim of your terrible upbringing, is so common as to be almost normal. Contra is the Latin equivalent of anti-, and it too means essentially against or contrary to. A contrast stands against something else that it's compared to. And contrapuntal music, as in the music of Bach, sets one melody against another played at the same time and produces harmony, which no one is opposed to. Contraband goods that are forbidden by law to be owned or brought into or out of a country, smuggled goods. Late at night, he would go driving through the desert on the interstate, peddling his contraband to wary gas station attendants. In Latin, a banus was an order or decree, so a contrabandum was something that went against a decree. This led to the Italian word contrabbando, from which we get contraband. Contraband items aren't always illegal, they may simply be things, such as cigarettes, that are meant to be taxed. So a dealer in untaxed contraband can charge a little less and still make enormous profits. Of course, if the item is actually forbidden, like illegal drugs, then the profits could be much greater. Contraindication: something, such as a symptom or condition, that makes a particular treatment, medication, or procedure likely to be unsafe. A history of stomach ulcers is a contraindication to regular use of aspirin. For doctors, an indication is a symptom or circumstance that makes a particular medical treatment desirable. Serious anxiety, for example, is often an indication for prescribing a tranquilizer. A contraindication, then, is a symptom or condition that makes a treatment risky, such as taking certain other medications at the same time. Drugs and conditions that are contraindicated for a medication are listed on its label and reeled off at high speed in TV ads. Patients can guard against the dangers of drug interaction by reading labels carefully and making sure their doctors know what else they're currently taking. Contravene: 1. To go against or act contrary to violate. 2. To oppose in an argument, to contradict. The power company was found to be contravening state and federal environmental standards for wastewater discharged into bodies of water. Contravene is most often used in reference to laws. So a government may take a company to court claiming that its policies are in contravention of national labor laws. The contravention of copyright laws is a big topic today, especially where electronic information is involved. And a country might be punished if a trade organization finds that it's contravening international trade agreements.